Welcoming everybody to the channel, and with the NFL season almost over for every team, just a couple remain, a lot of teams are looking into the offseason, and perhaps no team has a greater question to answer than the Chicago Bears. The question, of course, being what do they do with that number one pick? The same situation that they were in last year, but it is a bit of a different scenario. And this year, as was last year, but this year especially, the question is, what do the Bears do with their quarterback, Justin Fields? Because they have the number one pick, this question is being amplified. Had they been picking maybe 15, 16, even inside of the top 10, they're probably not having this conversation. The number one pick allows them to take any player in the whole draft, and there are a couple of really good prospects that theoretically could be better than Justin Fields. But Justin Fields is not a bad quarterback, and Fields' play towards the back half of the season makes this question even more difficult. So I'm going to be trying to answer whether the Bears should keep Justin Fields, evaluate his play in general, and if they should draft a new quarterback, who's the best guy for the job. So let's get straight into it, and let's talk a little bit about Justin Fields. So I want to just preface this by saying, and I don't want to have to say this, but unfortunately, that's probably where a lot of comments are going to go, so I just want to put this out there. I don't want to be labeled as a Justin Fields hater, okay? I am a Chicago Bears fan. I liked Justin Fields a lot out of the draft. I was a huge fan of his. I also have receipts on this. I made a video before the start of this season about Justin Fields and whether he was going to be a top 10 quarterback or not, right? So it was called, I think, Justin Fields, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And in that video, though I made criticisms like any player, at the end of the video I said I'm projecting he's going to be a top 10 quarterback. That was my assessment, right? So I'm not somebody who was in the camp last year that's like, he can't throw the ball, he stinks, whatever. That was never me. But his play this season, in my opinion, does not warrant some of the hype from Bears fans that he's getting. So I don't want to be labeled as a hater. I'm not. I'm a fan of the Bears. I want what's best for the Bears. But I'm also going to be objective about it because I think that I have some knowledge here that may help some fans understand, may help some NFL fans in general understand, not just Bears fans. So just want to throw that out there. But let's now talk a little bit about Fields' play, right? So last season, that being 2022, right, the narrative around Justin Fields was that he couldn't throw and that the Bears should move on and they should draft Bryce Young. And I think that was a legitimate conversation to be had. Now, I love the move that they made, which was trading with the Carolina Panthers, getting DJ Moore. Now, a year later, they have their number one pick. Like, that was a great move to make, right? And it bought the Bears time to really evaluate Justin Fields. But what happened this year, in my opinion, was we saw probably the best version of Justin Fields. The Bears had a pretty good situation this season. They had DJ Moore, who was probably an all-pro snub, but he was playing like an all-pro caliber receiver. They have Cole Kmet, who's a pretty good receiving tight end. They have Darnell Mooney, who I think they have yet to unlock, but he's also a good player. They had a pretty good offensive line, and they had a very good running game. And for some reason, Justin Fields didn't necessarily take the step I expected. Now, he was certainly better as a passer than last year. That I have no doubt about. But like I said at the beginning, this question is only being had because the Bears have the number one pick. If they had the number 10 pick, let's just say, you're rolling into next year excited about Fields, ready to add some talent around him. But they're not in that position. The question the Bears have to ask themselves is, well, one, you have to evaluate his performance this year, which we will do. But also, based on that evaluation, is that good enough to win a championship with? So like I said, my evaluation of Justin Fields, probably about the 16th best quarterback. He was injured, which we'll talk about, right? Because as a runner, if you are hurt, it limits what he does best, right? But as a passer, he was much better than last year. Like, yes, but let's just be honest about it. He has some really bad tendencies, okay, that I don't think are talked about. And I know the narrative with Bears fans is always, well, everybody hates Fields and they make unfair criticisms. And actually, a lot of that is true. There's a lot of unfair criticism about Fields. But I also have some fair criticisms about his play, okay? Which, number one, are we allowed to talk about this? His pocket presence, right? His play throwing inside the pocket is probably the worst in the entire league. Okay? It's really bad. At Ohio State, he had all day to throw. Receivers were wide open. That's a tough transition in the NFL, okay? That's okay that he's not good at that. But are we allowed to just say that without being labeled as a hater? He's a really bad pocket quarterback. He holds onto the ball for forever. He takes God knows how many unnecessary sacks by holding onto the ball or by straight up just running into a defensive lineman. That happens multiple times a game. Sometimes in super crucial situations that may take them out of field goal range or that ruins a drive. All the time this is happening. Okay? And you can't win games like that. It just won't happen. The other thing is his accuracy can be sporadic at times. One thing I've noticed with him is that when he's in rhythm, right? When you really get him going, he's just ripping balls down the seam, over the middle, across the field. That stuff happens, right? But also, he does occasionally miss more than other quarterbacks, right? So you have to take that into consideration. The other thing is his decision-making can be questionable. A lot of people say that he's not good off of his first read. Honestly, I don't know how to really measure that, if I'm being honest. How do I know what the play call is? How do I know what the reads are on any given play? I really don't. But because he hangs onto the ball for so long, because he can be inaccurate at times and he looks uncomfortable in the pocket, I'm going to I'm going to make the assumption that he's late, right? He's late. I don't know if he can't read a defense, but oftentimes when throwing, he's late. And that can lead to inaccuracy. It can lead to speeding up a throw. The other thing that happened in 2022, so his second year, was a lot of people were blaming the surrounding situation, which in my Justin Fields video I made, I said that is totally, completely valid. The Bears had a horrible situation. They had a not-so-good pass-blocking offensive line. Run blocking was a different story, but pass-blocking offensive line, not good. Receiving core, horrible. The worst receiving core in the league. So I get all that, right? But this year was different. Like I said earlier, they have weapons. And about the pocket presence thing, I'm sick of hearing that the offensive line is horrible. Their offensive line is not horrible. Now, they have a horrible center problem. That's true. Their center has been bad for years. For whatever reason, they put Cody Whitehair at center, and every snap is ridiculously low. They have to put Lucas Patrick there, who has no business starting. So I got that. Right? But the sacks he takes are almost always his fault. Okay, now, clearly sometimes guys are unblocked. Guys lose battles. It happens. But a quarterback cannot control the pressure up front. But a quarterback controls what he does about the pressure. And Justin Fields has elite running ability, and yet in the pocket he doesn't really use it. Now he got better from last year. I will say he got better at recognizing when to run, but when to throw, it's still bad. And so the reason I'm mentioning this is because I think some Bears fans, but not just Bears fans, and NFL fans in general, when they want to defend a quarterback, they always blame mostly two things. And one's the offensive coordinator, which we'll get to, and one's the offensive line. With Justin Fields, it's oftentimes both, but especially the offensive line. But one thing I want to say is, what do you expect is going to happen? Injuries are going to happen. Guys are going to play bad. That's not exclusive to the Bears. Other teams have worse lines than the Bears and have better pocket quarterbacks. That's just true. Okay? The Bears' offensive line is not the best in the league, but they have some good players. Okay? Justin Fields puts a lot of this on himself. The other thing is the offensive coordinator, which Luke Getsy was fired. Maybe that was justly. I don't have some crazy take on Getsy. I think he did a fine job, especially unlocking Fields as a runner, right, which happened last year. But at the beginning of the season, Fields was really, really bad. And I was actually at the Bears-Packers opening game, if you all remember that complete blowout disaster. And I went back and I watched the film. I watched a couple people break down what was happening. And yeah, some of the offensive calls, you were like, what the F is going on? Like, you had absolutely no idea, right? So I get that. But also, Fields is late on like every pass. He's missing open guys. He's not ready to throw the ball. So it can be a combination. Two things can be true at once, okay? The Bears may not have had a very great offensive coordinator, but also Fields was not playing at a super high level. And when that's meshed together, it doesn't look very good, which is what happened at the beginning of the season. So weeks 1 through 4 were really, really bad. And then a couple games happened, right? The Washington game, the Denver game, back-to-back 4-touchdown performances. Okay, I didn't expect 4 touchdowns every game from Fields, but the way that he looked, the way he was ripping the ball, the way he looked more comfortable in the pocket, his accuracy, his poise, his running, that's what I expected from Fields on a much more regular basis. And I honestly, I feel like we only got that a couple times, maybe 3 times. I mean, like the Atlanta game at the end, the Washington game, and the Denver game. Those were probably his best games. And there's only 3 of them. Like 3 games with his physical tools. Is that good enough when you have the number 1 pick? Right? Again, I keep saying this, but they don't have the 15th pick. Like, yeah, if they had the 15th pick, you're probably not getting a better quarterback, but they have the number 1 pick. So you really got to hone in on Justin Fields and ask yourself, can you win a championship like this? The way he looked in the Atlanta game, the Washington game, the Denver game, that was all there. I'll talk about this a little bit, but before Justin Fields came out of the draft, right, before I even knew he was going into the Bears, I made a full-fledged scouting report on Justin Fields. I watched every single game. I listed his strengths and weaknesses, everything. And in there, I think I got a lot of his analysis right, but one thing I got very wrong was labeling him a boom or bust prospect. Now, the reason I did that is because a lot of quarterbacks with the amount of physical tools that he has oftentimes don't pan out. They can't really put the passing skill set together, but sometimes they do. And you get a guy like Lamar Jackson or a guy like Cam Newton, Michael Vick, right? So I labeled him a boom or bust prospect, but that was wrong. Like, the bust is not going to happen. Okay, Justin Fields is not a bad quarterback. And I know I've been overwhelmingly negative, but again, that's because they have the number 1 pick. You kind of have to do this. Justin Fields is not a bust. It's not going to happen. He's at least like a really average starting quarterback, okay? But I also don't think that the boom is going to happen, which you also have to take into account. If you have the 16th best quarterback in the league, you need a pretty good situation to win a championship. And I don't want the Bears to fall into a trap like the Raiders did for years with Derek Carr, or the Bengals did for years with Andy Dalton, or the Buccaneers and the Titans did with Mariota and Winston. You didn't need 5 years to figure out that those guys probably were never going to take the next step. I don't want the Bears to do that. You don't need to waste more time. You've seen 3 years of Justin Fields. 3 years. And if you compile his best game, like the games that you would have assumed he'd have coming out of Ohio State, the top end, the best games, are there maybe 6, like 7 in over 3 years? You're getting like 2 a year of what you expected, of what you really expected. But that matters, okay? And that matters because everybody's willing to throw on the highlights of this dude making crazy throws, crazy runs. Like, that all exists, right? But what is he doing down to down? And down to down, it's not pretty. the Bears don't have a very efficient offense. Their efficiency comes running the ball, sometimes with Fields, but sometimes not. The Bears have very good running backs, right? The names aren't crazy, but the play has been very good. The offensive line run blocking has been very good. Justin Fields as a runner has been very good, but their efficiency as a passing offense is not good. Like, we need to compare Fields to other teams around the league. What does the Bears passing offense look like compared to other teams? The Bears passing offense is among the worst efficiency in the league. You can't win like that. It's not going to happen. This is the modern NFL, okay? Look at all the teams remaining. I mean, maybe like the Buccaneers, but even for the Bucs to win, Baker has to throw great. But all the teams remaining have high-level passing quarterbacks. That's the league that we're in right now. So whatever idea, whatever dream that a lot of Bears fans have in their heads of what Fields is going to look like at his best is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We've seen it for 3 years. And this is a serious question. I really, really mean this. For anybody that's willing to accept some fair criticism of Fields, and also that same person that wants to keep Fields, right? So this is a specific question. If you want to keep Fields, but you're also willing to accept the fair criticism, real question here. How much longer do you want to wait? All right, how much longer is it going to take? How many more games is it going to take before you really make up your mind? And you see, I think this is the issue, and I made a video about the New York Giants last year. And I talked about the Giants shouldn't have paid Daniel Jones. Okay, you saw him play for 4 years. And one of those years, the Giants won games. But Daniel Jones was never that great of a quarterback. Now, this is obviously a different situation. The Bears didn't make the playoffs. They didn't win a playoff game. Like, I get all that. But the point is, you had enough tape on a guy to know who they are. We know what Justin Fields is, okay? Here's what Justin Fields is. Justin Fields is an electric running quarterback who can make plays, whether that's running outside of the pocket or on read options, that no other quarterback in league history has ever been able to make. And that adds so much value to any team. As a passer, Justin Fields has a rocket arm. And when he's in rhythm, he looks really, really good. The problem is his bad tendencies, which is play in the pocket, play in structure, whether that be him maybe on his first reads. I think he's just late oftentimes. You got to balance the good with the bad. Are those criticisms of him, which I think are fair, are those conducive to winning games? And I think the answer is clear. The answer is no. The Bears are never going to win a championship with a quarterback who has flaws like that. So in my opinion, the Bears need to take a quarterback at number 1. And I think they're going to trade Fields. I think they should trade Fields. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to get back. A few years ago, Sam Darnold was traded for a second-round pick. I don't know how that even happened. Fields is way better than Sam Darnold ever was. So if that's like the model for a trade, they might get a second. But I think they're probably going to get a third. And a third is probably fair value for Justin Fields. Because again, he's not bad at all. He's not a bad player. So they should trade Fields. Whatever team wants him, that's fine. And they should select a new quarterback. And I've heard this from multiple Bears fans, and they always say, well, you can't just start over again. You can't keep drafting quarterbacks. Why? What else are you going to do? I understand that the Bears the last few years have had Jay Cutler, Mike Glennon, Mitchell Trubisky. Justin Fields is a breath of fresh air because you don't have a bad quarterback anymore. I got it. But if you hold the position, well, you can't just start over again because you have a guy that's not bad, then you're okay with mediocrity. Which if you are, just say that. Say, I want the 16th best quarterback. That's fine. You're not going to win a championship like that. You might win one playoff game if everything is right. like the Giants did last year. But the Giants were never going to win the Super Bowl. It's not going to happen. Even with like the Buccaneers. You think the Buccaneers are winning the championship with Baker Mayfield? Not going to happen. And yeah, you might have to struggle for a few years. You might draft Caleb Williams. He might be bad. It's like, okay, you weren't going to win with Fields anyway. But the difference is with Fields, you're guaranteeing you're going to win 7-8 games because he's not that bad. He's not going to throw the whole season away. At least if you draft a rookie, you have the upside that he's going to be better. But also, if he's not very good, you're going to be picking higher. You just start. This is the league the NFL has created. Good quarterbacks win games. Good quarterbacks win championships. Mediocrity at the quarterback position is one position you're not going to consistently win at. It may happen once. It may happen twice. You may win one playoff game. Not going to win a championship. And if you are going to win a championship with a mediocre quarterback or a below-average quarterback, it is possible, but you need almost everything to be right. You need, especially probably a defense, right? We saw that with like the 2015 Broncos won the Super Bowl with a horrible quarterback situation. The Ravens have done it a couple times, but the modern the last 10 years, probably just the Broncos have really done that. And they had maybe the best defense of the last decade. So not a very high probability that that's going to happen. But you also need, lots of weapons, a good coach. That stuff's really hard to get. And the Bears don't have that, unfortunately. They don't have the structure to do that with a mediocre quarterback. So I know this sounds probably really negative, but it's the truth, and I'm just being real. The Bears need to move off of Justin Fields. The Bears need to select a new quarterback, whether that be Caleb Williams or Drake May. If I was in the GM chair, I'm taking Drake May. I think he's the best prospect in this draft, at least as a quarterback. But Williams is obviously a phenomenal player. He has great physical tools. And let's just be real, he's likely to be at least average. He's a number one pick. Some busts happen, but if that happens, then fine, you start over again. But you gotta find that good quarterback. So thank you all so much for watching. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of interesting comments from this video, but I love the debate. I love the controversy. I want to hear every single person's opinion. Voice what you have to say. Where do you agree? Where do you disagree? And I will see you all in the next video.